Hi, my friend. Welcome to the Bounce Back Black Woman podcast. I'm Dell, and I've overcome some of the most devastating heartbreaks I could ever have imagined. Do you find yourself stuck in sadness after a broken heart, asking God, why me? Well, I'm here to help women just like you heal and build the resilience to overcome life's greatest hurts. If you long for joy and confidence again, this podcast is for you. So grab your headphones and those heartbreaks. Let's talk. Hey there, my friend, and welcome back to Bounce Back Black Woman. I'm Dell, and this one is for the woman who's been misunderstood, misread, or even misjudged. Have you ever been labeled as too much, too loud, too sensitive, too quiet, too driven, too deep, too inflexible, too controlling, or too anything? If so, me too, friend. Me too. Well, today we are flipping that script. What if you're not too much? What if you're just wired differently than the person who couldn't understand you? Created uniquely and on purpose for a purpose. Today we're talking about the power of self-awareness, and in particular, personality awareness, and how it's not just interesting, it's also healing and liberating and affirming. Without knowledge, there can be no growth. The broken partnerships, the mismatched job failures, the fading friendships, and the strained and sometimes estranged relationships can oftentimes be traced back to misunderstanding the other person and even misunderstanding yourself. Ephesians 2:10, from my favorite, the New Living Translation, says, "For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus, so we can do the good things He planned for us long ago." Do you know what I hear when I read that? I hear that you weren't created to copy someone else's wiring. That's what I hear. I hear that God knew exactly who and how He was crafting you when He made you. And I hear that you were never expected to conform to others' expectations of who you're quote unquote supposed to be. You're God's design, and self-awareness is an act of honoring that design. That's why it was so important for me to include elements of understanding ourselves into this podcast, because it's not just about healing the heartbreak. It's about understanding where that heartbreak comes from and taking steps to prevent it in the future. So we're going to go into detail throughout this podcast in lots of different ways that we can get to know ourselves better. Things like personality types, love languages, motivators, communication styles, and other ways that we can dive deeper into how God created us so we can show up better in our lives, our relationships, our work, and our families. Today's focus is on the specific scientific work of a man named Carl Jung. He developed what's known as the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. And in circles that talk about that kind of stuff, it's often referred to as the MBTI. And for this episode, I'm going to specifically reference a book called Type Talk, the 16 distinct personality types that determine how we live, love, and work. It's one of my favorite books on the subject. It was written by Otto Kroger and Janet Thusen. And the reason that it's one of my favorites is because it's easy to read, it's easy to understand, and so it instantly became my favorite resource almost 20 years ago on the subject. I'll make sure to include a link to the book in the show notes. But let's get to what the book teaches us. First thing I want to share is that you're not difficult. You're designed. You may be difficult, again, my air quotes that you can't see, for others to understand, to accept, to blend with, but you yourself, my friend, are not difficult. When people don't understand you, they might label you. But what if those labels, too much, too sensitive, too intense, too controlling, were really signs of your unique wiring by God? Let's face it, personality does matter. And when we don't understand how we're built, we're more likely to shrink or shapeshift for others and their expectations of us. And when we do that, we wake up one day as someone that we don't even recognize when we look in the mirror. You do not, and I repeat, you do not have to water yourself down to be digestible for people who were never meant to taste your unique flavor. All right, so I want to share a personal story. In MBTI language, I'm what's known as an NF temperament. And that NF temperament is referenced as the quintessential idealist and helper. And I've often ruffled some people's feathers, not because of that per se, but because it's not what they would prefer, or what they were used to, or what they wanted in that moment. And let's not get this confused with people politely asking you to let them figure it out. That's fine. But it's when someone labels you and tells you that you're wrong for wanting to help or wanting to be an idealist that it becomes a problem. I remember one time that I was going through a difficult time in my marriage. Things were tense and uncomfortable. My temperament led me to try every way that I knew how to open up communication. And yet, those efforts were met with resistance and criticism, which broke my heart with each name that I was called. I continually made suggestions of things and approaches that could help. But even that was labeled as controlling and bossy. Because I knew my motivations and I knew my personality temperament, I simply dismissed that labeling without guilt, because I was only being who God created me to be. And even if that meant conflict in my relationship, I was not going to try to change or morph into someone that I wasn't created to be. And in case you're wondering, yes, that marriage ended in my second divorce. You may have been told that you're too much, too loud, too emotional, too intense, or too something. But maybe you weren't too much at all. Maybe, just maybe, you were wired differently. Confidence doesn't come from performing. Confidence doesn't come from praise or from others' acceptance. It comes from knowing yourself, knowing your personality type, knowing your love languages, your leadership style, how you influence, what makes you tick, and so much more. Knowing what energizes you and what drains you. Knowing how God wired you, and then owning it. And we'll talk a lot about different ways to know ourselves throughout this podcast, because I believe so deeply in the power of self-knowledge in bouncing back. But after reading it and learning and analyzing and even teaching about the MBTI, I've been able to recognize how my behaviors might be influenced by my personality type and my preferences, which in turn allows me to adjust or accept my actions accordingly. By taking the test and then diving deep into understanding those 16 different styles, I've since been able to better understand and explain where I'm coming from, and also better know how I might need to adjust for someone that has a different style than me. When you know your personality style, you can set better boundaries. You can stop apologizing for your needs. You can stop over-personalizing misunderstandings. And those things make up relational confidence. You were made to be understood, and that starts with yourself. This journey isn't about putting yourself in a box. It's about having language for what your heart has always known. You're not broken. You're built uniquely, and that's a good thing. Proverbs 31:25 is beautiful, and here's what it says. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. And that is what self-awareness unlocks. It unlocks the confidence to stop pretending and start embracing who we were created to be. And once you finally do that, you give yourself the permission to begin bouncing back. So I want to leave you with these words, my friend, in closing. You are not too much. You're not difficult. You're not confusing. You're a woman becoming more aware of who she is, and that awareness is holy. So keep discovering, keep unfolding, because your bounce back begins the moment that you stop apologizing for your unique design. You're a masterpiece in motion, and the fullness of who you are, that deserves room to breathe. So keep being loud, keep dreaming big, keep showing up bold, because your bounce back doesn't require permission. It just requires intention. So if this spoke to you, I hope that you'll share it with someone who's been trying to be everything but herself. And when you're ready, head over to bouncebackblackwoman.com and you can grab the Bounce Back Companion Journal, or you can join our community, or you can sign up for my weekly insider newsletter by email, or you can do all of them. The point is that we're here to heal together. Let's grow together, because it's not just me, it's not just you, it's us. Well, that's it for today, my friend. I really hope this episode inspired, encouraged, or just plain comforted you. If so, please share it with a friend who might be struggling in her own healing journey. And if you take a moment to leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts, you'll help other women find encouragement through their heartbreak. Remember that God is holding your hand along this journey, and guess what? I'm holding the other. Life is short, so bounce back, Black woman.